You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast hosted by experienced consultants James Gerd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-commerce strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.
Today's episode is sponsored by Scayle, Commerce Engine and Swap. We'll talk more about them later on. So today we're joined by a good friend of mine, Andrew from CurrentBody. Known each other for about 5 years-ish. Originally met in a coffee shop to talk about Magento 2, and then we together decided that Shopify would be a better route, which was quite early in those days. And then we carried on talking pretty regularly about different things around kind of e-com and tech and roadmap and everything else since then. And I've always found Andrew's views and kind of test and learn nature super interesting. So I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a long time. And after, a good 3 or 4 years, he's finally agreed to come on. Really excited to have you on here. Do you want to maybe just give a bit of an intro to yourself and also CurrentBody?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. My podcast debut. I think, as you said, 3-4 years finally wore me down, but happy to be on here. Thank you. So I'm co-founder and CTO of CurrentBody, formed in 2009 when my business partner, Lawrence Newman, his background was in professional beauty devices, selling to spas and clinics. He knew as the technology allowed devices to be shrunk and that there'll be a growing market for home use. So he was way ahead of his time, but he's been proven absolutely correct. We started selling third-party devices, and over the last few years, we've moved more and more to our own products that we've manufactured in-house, actually developed in-house, and we now have products in all of our key categories, such as laser hair removal, LED, microcurrent, radio frequency, hair regrowth. We've gone from just being a UK business to less than 20% of our sales are in the UK. We've got 22 international stores from 4, now 5 global warehouses, got 160 people up in Manchester office with more in California and China. But my background before that was running a digital camera retailer in the UK in the early 2000s, which was a great grounding in how to run an e-commerce business efficiently. It was a very, very tight margin, so it meant we had to really optimize everything from bundling and upselling to automating customer service as much as possible, automating some digital marketing. So tough market, but it was a great founder which led to CurrentBody.
Great. And we'll talk a lot about some of those things later on. So the first topic I wanted to cover, and I guess something that we've talked about the last couple of times we've met, is AirTable. And when we first started talking about it, maybe 2+ years ago, I was fairly skeptical on how it compared to something like an Akinio around PIM. And I think you definitely proved me wrong on that. But also, you've gone on to use it for lots of other things, and built out lots of mini apps and functionality within business. So can you talk us through, what led you to AirTable and then how you've gone on to use it more and more and some of the benefits it's covered by?
AirTable has been great for us in our business. I'll come on to the bigger projects of the PIM second, because the first thing we used it for was a Trustpilot reviews tracking app that we built. We use Trustpilot on 6 of our stores, and we have all the reviews coming in for there. Originally, we had customer service trying to manage if we had a negative review, they want to deal with it. It was very difficult to track, doing it in, first of all, in an email, then trying it in Google Sheets. It becomes impossible to keep track of who's responded to who. So Airtable made perfect sense. So now there's a whole workflow for customer service to see all the ones they need to respond to, the ones that are in progress. It's much cleaner. But because Airtable's collecting all the reviews as well, we can then build a reporting around that very easily. There's an interface so we can see the average ratings we've had over any period of time and break it down by store. You can see some of the issues we've had. Was it to delivery or returns? And that's really helped us steadily improve all the various systems and customer service that we're offering. So that's one example of an internal tool that we've built. Another built by someone else in the business far cleverer than me is the partnership tracking tool. We work with hundreds of influencers on a regular basis. So this is a tool for the influencer team to be able to put in the influencers that we're working with, the offers, the products they're promoting, the content comes into it. And it's a really useful database to have ongoing as we work with people. Again, it all links to our reporting. So it's all there because it's in an Airtable. It means we can adapt it as and when and make changes ongoing. I think that speaks to the projects of the PIM. We had gone down the road of trying traditional PIM software for content management, and it was just too sort of static. So as our site was continuing to develop, we launched a new store, we launched new types of product fields. You could just never keep up to where we were. It was not ultimately a good fit. Whereas with Airtable, we can easily add, if we add a new section using new meta fields, it's very simple to add that to Airtable. If merchandising team want to see more information added when a product created, we can get that done. We can make sure there's checks and balances versus doing things in Google Sheets, etc., where things fall down because people have put a dollar sign in a sheet, in a cell to a dollar sign, whereas Airtable can check all this, check all the right information, make sure the different departments see only what they need to see. And it's been brilliant for that. Just that's not been built in-house. We're using Nolo apps, like Oliver Oates, who we're familiar with. Just the level of expertise they've got is far beyond what we would have in-house to build our. It's fine for building simple internal apps, but something like this that's speaking to our back office Brightfield, speaking to all of our different Shopify Plus stores and other external tools. It's been really helpful to have their experience and guidance to build it.
Are you ready to beat the market? With Scayle's commerce platform, you can launch advanced promotions within seconds, generate reliable revenues with subscriptions, open shops in new channels and countries with just a few clicks, and much more. Go to the link in the description to visit Enterprise Evolutions from Scayle and see all of our latest features.
Yeah, I know it's quite interesting actually, because it's such a niche area for e-commerce at the moment, because not that many people have gone down that route, but it seems to be growing in popularity of use of Airtable for lots of different business applications. I'd love to know operationally, because I think a lot of people I speak to who've heard of it or might have seen some of the content that Nolo apps and Ollie are pushing out on LinkedIn, still don't quite grasp operationally. So how do your team get involved? Are you doing anything yourselves? Are you building and adapting the apps within the internal team, or is it all outsourced on a, we'll create a spec and you deliver it for us basis?
So for the PIM, it's a case of there's a very long investigation period from Oliver and his team where they saw all the process that are involved in creating products and updating product content. So we had a brilliant grasp of all our systems. So together we came up with the spec of everything we'd want in a PIM, and they had obviously they built all the stuff in Airtable as a Moscow must, should, and would have. So it means we can go through all the things that we absolutely need in the first version, all the things we'd like to have, and things later on. So from that, it's been a very collaborative process, weekly meetings, monthly check-ins to go through the progress. They regularly send us, they sent us a prototype, which was really useful to build out how we wanted it to go. So it's a case of, it's not a case of this is the PIM that we want, and they go off and build it and improve it. So it's every week, this is a section they've been working on. We can give feedback with the people who are actually using it. They go and use it. They themselves give really useful feedback on how they use it. And it's just a much better way, I think, of having software that's entirely specific for our team, but backed by the power of Airtable, so we know it can scale and work well. But it means every different section of it is exactly as our team needs it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think they've got a really nice niche there, and they James did an episode of Ollie before, and I think we've both been quite impressed with what they're bringing to the market. So another area on a similar-ish topic, and something you've kind of played down a bit, or at least you did when we last spoke, was your adoption of AI within the business and the e-com team. So I was pretty impressed with kind of how we're using AI alongside Airtable and, Siena and some other areas. So can you just talk us through kind of where you are with that and kind of, where you're using some of the LLMs and services out there and, kind of how it's benefited you guys?
Yeah, I remember last time we met, I think I'd said that I felt we wouldn't do that much in AI. I think on this podcast, he'd said actually when I talked about it, we were doing a bit. I think there's also a feeling that there's so much going on and it's moving so fast. It's, you don't want to be, it's not about being left behind, it's making sure we're making the most of the technology that's out there. And I know there's a lot more we could be doing. I think where I was coming from when I said that. So in terms of content, so within the PIM, that obviously has all the content information for every product. And what we want to do is ensure that we're speaking in the right tone of voice, we're getting the right information across, that for every product, it's accessible by somebody who's new to devices, but also it's got the right information for someone who's very familiar with devices. How might a beauty journalist judge it? So you can send the content to an AI app that we've built. So as the content's been created, it uses the LLM to give feedback from those three personas, and then give pointers on the content, so it can be done at the point of creation, giving really helpful feedback. So we don't really use it for content creation, but for editing, I think is where we found it's really, really helpful. I think starting from scratch, you may give some ideas, but it's the editing what we already have and making sure that we're tweaking one or 2 points here and there to make sure it's understandable and accessible as possible. In terms of help you. So that's on the Airtable AI side. I think in terms of other use, you mentioned Siena. So that's a customer service bot that can answer customer emails that come into us. We're very, very cautious over how we roll that out. We would rather have more tickets answered manually than it getting too involved in too many tickets and not answering them correctly. But over time, the more it learns, the more we train it, the better it is. The reason I like Siena, when I was reviewing this sort of a year ago, there's lots of AI customer service tools out there. Some of the more legacy ones, they can use AI to understand what the customer's asking, and then they give a templated response. Whereas what Siena can do is understands what the customer's asking, understands the intent, and then generates a custom response using LLM based on the tone they've used and their email, things they've referenced. But again, we're very clear that we want to use this for the lower level stuff. Where's my order? How do I return this? Questions like that, which AI can do a very good job of. And that frees up our customer service time to be able to spend more time offering great advice to customers. Over time, some of the low level advice may be doable by AI, but I say we're cautiously rolling that out. And the idea is it's, at the moment it's handling just over 20% of tickets that come in. So that's more time. And I don't see that as we need fewer agents. That's more time that the agents can spend on high quality answers with our customers. I think some of other uses. So personally, I use it many, many times a day for a complicated Excel formula I need, or Google checks for an initial steer, etc. So there's all sorts of things that we use. Just there's so many use cases. I think one tool that we found brilliant, not obviously much about it, it's called detangle.ai. So if you've got a contract, you can upload it to that. It'll come back and give you a little scale to show you, is it in favour of you or the other side, should show where you are. It's been quite painful to do that with some historic contracts that we've had, but going forward, everything goes through that, so we know there's any little loopholes in there that we want to look out for. That's been a brilliant tool. I think one other example where AI has helped with trying to cut down on manual work. So I mentioned we've got 22 different websites. We ship to over 60 countries around the world. We work with many, many different couriers. So it means we've got many combinations of websites and couriers. So the tracking links, it's always a constant battle to keep on top of ensuring that they have the right links. Everybody's obviously got the tracking reference, but the link isn't always it's not always the right one for the right courier, or the courier updates their website and the link no longer works. So we've now got a system that can scan every day. It gets a sample of each combination of websites and courier. It clicks on the link and it takes a screenshot of that, and then AI can look at the screenshot and says, does this look like a valid tracking page? So rather than manually manually checking it or manually programming it to check each site, which just becomes impossible to send couriers, AI is intelligent enough to know if a tracking results page is a valid one or not, and therefore that highlights the ones that are correct, and we can go in and update the system. So that, I think that's quite a nice case for us.
Swap is the e-commerce operating system powering brands looking to scale, from shipping, tracking and package protection to returns and cross-border. Swap improves every pain point in your operations journey, trading your tech stack for the one system that can manage it all. This is e-commerce evolved. I really like that. I've not come across that use case before. I think this is the interesting thing now in AI is that there's so much hype out there, and there's almost an obsession for vendors to talk about AI like it's never existed before. But e-com teams like yourselves are really starting to find practical use cases to give operational efficiency. And I think that's where the future is, right, away from the glitz, but in the operations. I'd love to just a quick question on the Siena thing, because we did an episode with Lisa recently, really impressed with the whole ethos behind the business, but also the conversational element they're bringing into it to try and making it like it's talking to a sales assistant rather than here's just a response. And I spoke to another e-com team recently I'm working with, and they've seen a 70% drop in their standard inquiries to tickets because it's just automating either through pre-programmed flows or through the AI. Do you have any data in terms of what level of reduction you're seeing in those kind of like bog standard queries that you want to shift away from CS?
So Siena is handling 21% of tickets at the moment, but it's hard to isolate just Siena because we've also, in the last 6 months, moved from Zendesk to Gorgias, which has been an absolutely brilliant move for us. And part of that is the way that we can customize it as much as possible. So Gorgias didn't have all the features that we wanted, but again, using the API, we've been able to recreate everything that we've needed in it. I think it's probably also worth mentioning Return Go, because that's we've moved from the Rebound or legacy system to Return Go, which offers a much better experience for customers. So previously, they'd go to Rebound, they'd put in their return request, they'd send it back. We get it in the warehouse 1 to 2 weeks later, and then they process the refund or the exchange. And it was a slow and long process, which led to a lot of customers chasing where's their refund, where's their exchange, and it wasn't where we needed to be. So with Return Go, now what we have is customers can log their exchanges or their refund request. Once we detect that it's in motion and they're giving it to a courier to come back to us, that can automatically trigger either the refund or the exchange. So it means if somebody has a faulty item on a Monday, they take it to the local post office, we detect on Monday, we can dispatch the same day and send their replacement for next day delivery, or the same for the refund if they want the refund. So that along with lots of other things, has massively cut down the number of inquiries that we've got. So it means of the inquiries that we have left, Siena is now handling 21%. So to take a step back to where we were when we were on Zendesk, there will be a big cut in the number of ticket inquiries that we've had, because we have ruthlessly gone after the returns and also the delivery. That's why I mentioned the order tracking. If you don't have correct order tracking, unsigned customers are going to contact you to find out where their order is or why the tracking is not going to work. So the more we stay on top of that, I think we're over 98% of the tracking links are correct at the moment, and we've been able to get that as close to 100, but it was lower than that, and even a small percentage can lead to a lot of inquiries. So it's kind of 3 or 4 different areas across customer service where we've looked at where the inquiries are and looked how we can automate it.
Great. And I guess sticking on that theme of customer service and customer experience, I know you've done a lot with Gorgias and you're quite proud of your Gorgias setup. So it'd be good for you to just talk us through kind of what you've done since moving over to Gorgias, and the impact that's had on the business.
Yes, so it's been a really positive move for us. I think, just as an example, if a customer emails, at say 9 o'clock and the email again at 12 o'clock, they've not had a reply. Previously, there was no way of knowing that customer has emailed twice without a reply. And if you're sorting the tickets by last message received, then if you're sorting by oldest first, it's not reflecting that the fact that they've emailed more recently. So we've built a system so we can, every time a customer chases it, adds another tag to it so that they can be prioritized. But then taking that a step further, the way Gorgias works when they assign tickets to agents, you say which channel you want to assign to agents, and it just does the oldest ticket first, which is fine. on a basic level, but it's not how we want to work. There's often scenarios where we want to be able to react faster to customers. If it's a VIP customer and somebody's ordered spent over a certain amount or X many orders, that they should be handled a bit quicker. If they've chased, there's lots of different scenarios. If they've left a bad Trustpilot review, and we might want to handle it that much faster. So actually, in Airtable, we've built a tool that gets all the open tickets and scores every ticket, for those 4 different points that I mentioned. And also, the longer the waiting, the higher the score. So each ticket has a score. The higher the score, it then gets to the top scoring tickets and then puts those into the auto-assigned queue in Gorgias, which means the agents are working on exactly the tickets we want to be working on, not necessarily just the oldest tickets. I think that's been a great use case of the Gorgias API, use of Airtable, and it's just been really, really great for us. So yeah, another good example. This is actually, I think, a missing feature from Gorgias, that every customer who has a ticket that's been answered, they get a link to leave a survey, leave a score out of 5. But then there's no way within Gorgias to easily get a view of all the people who've left, say, 1 or 2 star reviews. Again, using actually a third-party service called Replit, which has been talked about another day. That's had a developer build a very simple tool that every hour just checks for any customers that have left 1 or 2 star, and 1 to 3 star surveys, and then it just posts in our customer service Slack channel, and then puts it in a separate view in Gorgias, and also adds to the score in the separate scoring system. So it means those customers who've left a bad, a low rating on our survey, we can make sure we spot what's happened and get back to them much faster.
A roadmap and a backlog, or is it a case of, and I guess, how do you fit in these newer kind of more exciting tests that you tend to run? How do you manage the kind of development side?
So it's always a tricky one, because there's things that we want to do just a day-to-day running of 22 different stores, and we've acquired another brand as well, so that we've now got 11 sites across 4 Shopify stores for that. So just a day-to-day running of things that go wrong needs a certain amount of time. Then there's requirements from the SEO team, and we also look at page speed. Content team have requests, and there's the various different departments of the business have all got very valid requests. So juggling all of those is a challenge. Every department would like more development time, and I think it's a healthy conversation to have. So we use Linear to track all the backlog we move from Jira to Linear. It's been a good move for us. There's still things more we can do to optimize how we use it. It's quite early days, but it's been really good just to have everything in one place, so we can track across all the different departments, so how it was spent and estimates, etc. And then we have a weekly meeting with the department heads to go through what the development team we've decided. So me, the product owner, the head of development, we go through the day before to go through all the tasks that are outstanding and put a priority and order together for the developers to work on. But the next day we go through the department heads to go through that order and then see if there's things that we've missed that are a higher priority. But then some of I think it's worth noting that just the way that Shopify works, and we've got Brightpearl and some of these things like Airtable, a big chunk of the task we need our developers for. And then other projects, things like the Airtable PIM project, that doesn't touch our development team in any way, shape or form. So me and the product owner are managing that project, but it's not taking developer resources. And it's the same with some other Airtable projects, or even our Gorgias work. Most of that does not require development time. So some of these other projects we can push on without needing developer resource. But in terms of the dev time that we have, it's always going to be a healthy, constant battle between the different requirements from day to day to developing the site further and the different requests from different departments.
One thing that you touched on there, I guess, is like Airtable and some of the other solutions you use, I guess, being more low-code, no-code type products. You don't need developers. Just purely out of interest, something that James and I talk about a lot is, I guess, where the world's going and maybe the reliance on developers being reduced. And as I think you and I are quite similar, we like to tinker with things and test stuff out and do stuff ourselves. Is that something that you've seen around the Shopify ecosystem, I guess? Like, 3 years ago, I would assume a lot of stuff would need to go by your CTO, whereas now you're in a better position to use non-developers to implement things.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that so many of the apps that we use, it's a 1 hour job for the dev to install it. Then at that point, their work's done. It's for the marketing team or the content team to go and run it, or the operations team. But I think in terms of some of the other tasks and how developers can use AI, I'm really keen for not to replace developers with AI, but for the developers to use it to be more efficient in what they're doing. Even my own, you've mentioned Replit, a tool that we've done. And we have a tool that gets our sales every half an hour and posts updates to a certain channel in Slack. So it says how we're doing versus budget and the projection for the day based on the same day over the previous 90 days. I previously had a junior developer that was working on this. And then when he moved on, it just made sense. I can basically be able to do it. I'm not a developer, but using AI, I've been able to do everything that I need to do, because I think the key is to know what's possible. Once you know what's possible, how to link different systems together, then you can go and ask AI to do it. And it's been transformational. So I can't see us taking on junior developers again. To be honest, I think, using AI where it is now, and I think over 6, 12 months, it's just going to get better and better for the low level tasks that we need. And then, senior developers work on the harder stuff, and again, using AI to complement what they're doing and improve the efficiency.
That brings me on to a question around team structure, because it always varies across businesses depending on their market, what their preference and how they like to run a business. So you've now just talked about less reliant on like junior devs, and your team obviously get through a lot. It seems a highly productive team. You're doing a lot of automation. What is the team structure then? Where do you focus the skills internally versus external partners like Nolo?
So I'm CTO, then I've got product owner who's managing the roadmap, both development and the other non-dev related projects. We've got 4 developers, including a head of development. And then in terms of, then also somebody looks after the various apps that we have on Shopify, and being master of all of those. But beyond that, it's generally, we've made the tools available to the different teams, and the teams are using it. Actually, the development team is pretty much the same size as maybe 2019. And I think a lot of that is due to how we've moved as close as possible to the Shopify Plus natively where possible, and using their architecture, which means we don't have to do lots of things in-house ourselves. We're relying on those services. I mean, the resource can go into the content team, the marketing team, operations, so that they're using the tools. But it's not that we need, if you look at our sales now compared to 2019, where we also have the same number of developers, and if we'd scaled that proportionally to our sales increase, we'd probably own 35, 40 developers. It's just not been needed. Something, a small aspect is AI, but the rest is leaning on these systems. I think one thing we're looking at, we've got, as I mentioned, we've got 22 Shopify Plus stores, which is based on the architecture we built from when I met Paul in 2017, 2018, when we first launched our Shopify stores, and a lot of the functionality they have now in terms of markets, multi-domain, wasn't available. So I'm very keen to try and rationalize the number of stores we've got down to a handful. Payments being the final barrier stopping that, but I think over the next few months, I've heard you both speak about, and I think that will enable us to do it. Then the fewer stores, it's a smaller technical debt, fewer apps, different instances to manage, and then all that comes back to not needing a huge team to manage the operations that we have.
Great. And we've talked about loads of different things that you've kind of been working on over the last 6 months and last few years. Obviously, the world moves a lot faster than it did even 2 years ago. But what other priorities do you have in your roadmap for the next kind of 12 to 18 months?
So we've got some short-term things. So move to checkout extensibility we've put off for as long as possible, just because, again, we've quite heavily edited the checkout to have various features, and not all of those we were able to replicate in the new checkout in Shopify. We're now at the point where the last one that we couldn't replicate, we've now been able to do that, was where if somebody puts in a failed discount code, so a discount code that's not recognized, we would get an alert that would go to a system so we can see each day the number of different failed codes. So if there's a typo in a particular code, we could add that to the list, or if we can see if someone's, if the influencer posted a complete wrong code, we can then react to that quite quickly. We've been able to replicate that now in new checkout, thanks to some clever dev work. So that was the final hurdle. So the next few weeks we're rolling that out across all of our stores. Other short terms, we heard of the order editing app that's gaining lots of traction. We're in the process of testing that on our US store, and we want to roll that out again. It will give customers 30 minutes to make changes to their orders, and this comes back to the customer service side, trying to reduce the number of contacts that we have per order by getting customers to be able to do as much as possible. So if they've spotted putting the wrong address or the wrong phone number, email address, they can edit that. If they want to add to their order, want to remove things from their order, they can do all that within this. Even apply a discount code retrospectively, although we don't know that too prominent, but also ideally adding things to their order in terms of post-purchase upsells as well. We're hoping that'll do. In terms of the longer term plans, as I mentioned, the rationalization of the number of stores that we've got. At the same time, I mentioned the other brand, Zips, that we acquired. We've just gone from one international store to 4 Shopify stores with 11 different markets. So we might be able to optimize and potentially increase that further. But I alluded to our move from selling only third-party brands to our own brand being more and more prominent. So and I think I've seen you talk about this with other clients you've got, Paul, but our move to being far more content and brand-led. So our site has come from being a third-party multi-brand retailer, and that's more and more about showcasing the brands that we have. Best use of video, best use of long-form content. The collection pages at the moment are very much standard e-commerce that have built for big catalogs. Actually, each product listing page that we have should be far more thought and attention and detail given to the products that we have, and custom for each category that we have. So it's very much the move to content and brand is a big focus for us over the next 12, 18 months.
Amazing. So just a few projects, yeah. I love it. It's amazing actually how how many people now I'm speaking to about the order editing side, because it's such a common challenge that people have, and customer service teams are they don't want to have to keep doing all of this crap where they have to then go to people in a warehouse to try and stop an order getting out, to make a change manually, to hack something in an ERP, etc. I'm not surprised. I'd be intrigued to have this conversation in like 3 to 6 months and find out what impact it's had.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to having that rolled out across all sites, but the limit at the moment is only 30 minutes we're giving for when people can edit work. So what we do is we hold the order in Shopify, and then after 30 minutes, Shopify follow updates a tag, so then the order comes through to Brightfield. But it's we're using an intermediary called Doton that links our Shopify to Brightfield, and they've been absolutely brilliant for many, many different things in terms of how we get the orders into Brightfield. It sounds like a simple case, but just the default Brightfield integration is very basic, and Doton have been superb for helping even just things like this. We also have, when we send orders out to influencers, the influencer team put the order on Shopify, put a certain tag on the order, which means it goes in our Brightfield back office, it goes to an influencer channel, so it's not impacting it's not inflating the sales channels incorrectly. But at the moment, the reason we have the 30-minute limit is because once the order's in Brightfield, we can't edit the address automatically, whereas the new API is coming out hopefully in the next few months, that will be possible. And then when that's possible, Doton will enable us to allow order editing up to the point of dispatch, really, which will be great. I think that's just a much wider window as well for people to ideally add more products or just make sure the order's correct. But I think half an hour is good because that's, I think you find maybe 70 to 80% of people who want to cancel or make a change is generally within that first half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really, really interested. Andrew, really enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much. Glad we've finally managed to break your duck on podcasts. I hope you enjoyed it. And for everyone listening, I hope you've got a load out of it, because there's lots of tools and processes and automations we talked about today, and we'll link them all in the episode post. But do make sure you're following us, Inside Commerce, on LinkedIn, and also subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter that goes out every couple of weeks. Until next time, everybody. You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast, hosted by experienced consultants James Gerd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-commerce strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.